Ah, the joys of being a commercial fisherman. That's what I thought to begin with. Ever since I was a youngin', I had a nice little fascination with the ocean, the sea, and all the creatures that dwelled within it. Sharks, whales, fish, dolphins, orcas, all of it. Even old sea legends, sea monsters, the kraken, the giant squid, giant octopus, giant octopi, the Bermuda Triangle, pirates, ghost ships, Flying Dutchman. All of it just captured my imagination. I was dumbstruck with it. I was 3 years old when I caught my first bluefish, and ever since then I've been hooked on fishing. Now in my early 30s, I managed to become a first mate of a fishing vessel, a tuna and swordfish fishing vessel, commercial vessel, depending on the season. But this winter was unusually warm. It's almost if none of the polar vortex or any of the cold fronts down coming from the Arctic down through Canada and going down into New England was even reaching our area of Massachusetts. Puzzled me, and it puzzled all the meteorologists in the area, as well as nationally. Hell, even the Weather Channel had a brief segment on our area and the phenomena that had been occurring all winter. But as fishermen, we didn't complain because the bluefin tuna and swordfish were still just going at it due to the warmer than usual sea temperature, ocean temperature. It was odd because it was in the middle of January. And the air temperature was only 55. Sea temperature was only 60. And there they were. Swordfish and bluefin tuna just still tearing it up in the sea. It had been a very lucrative year for us, and due to the unusual weather pattern, and it just blew us wide open. We were making so much money. Just today, our captain received a message from another vessel saying that an area that was about 50 miles out toward the continental shelf was going off very heavy. A lot of tuna, a lot of swordfish. We also warned there were plenty of mako sharks and great white sharks in the area, so he advised us to use caution. Me, the captain, and the rest of our crew made up our minds and we decided to go out again. We'd just been out a week earlier and caught all kinds of fish. But now, we really wanted to lay into it. All of us went to bed early, then we woke up early the next morning and headed out. Just to see that gorgeous sun rising above the Atlantic. There's nothing quite like it. Got the whole ocean in front of you and all of civilization behind you. You're so totally free out there, and yet you're so alone by yourself. And of course, we have modern technology and communication systems, and if there was an emergency that were to occur, we can just hit the distress signal or radio someone and give our coordinates, or through another boat, or the Coast Guard would come in and help us out if anything crazy were to happen. Our captain had been watching the weather reports, and it was all clear. Nothing but blue skies and calm seas. So gorgeous. Unseasonably warm, and the fishing was just incredible. We made about 50 miles out to the general area where the other captain had tipped us to go to. Dropped our line and boom. Got ourselves a bluefin. The giant fish submarined and torpedoed through the water, yanking and cranking massive runs as the drag screamed from our reel. Pierre yanked on the line, turning the knob of the reel. "This is a nice one," he shouted. I smiled in delight, shouting, "Bring him in, bring him in." The drag screamed again. And again and again. Finally, Pierre was able to bring the fish boat side. It was a good fish, around 600 pounds. Got the harpoon and I took care of business. Then Pierre, I, and Alan proceeded to drag the fish into the hull of the boat, opening the doggy door and dragging him in. "Oh, it's a fine one," shouted the captain. I smiled and nodded back up at him. "You approve, eh, Pedro?" "Aye, that I do," he shouted back. Pedro was an old Spaniard. He immigrated to the United States back in the 80s and came from a long line of fishermen. He was a lively, free-willing, and just devil-may-care type of man. In his youth, he had been quite the specimen, apparently. He was known around town for getting into his share of barroom brawls and ravishing the majority, if not all, of the decent-looking women in town. But with old age, he calmed down, but still maintained that fiery passion and dignity that he once held in his youth, albeit much more calculated and focused. "That'll fetch a nice pretty penny, won't it?" he shouted. "Indeed it will. Indeed it will." For days and days we'd been checking the weather, and for all morning it was all clear, not a cloud in the sky, but out of nowhere the wind started picking up and clouds began to appear all around us almost instantaneously. We began to hear thunder in the distance as the wind began to pick up 5, 10, 15 miles an hour. Gradually. As we were loading the fish into the ice chest, we began to all look at each other. Alan, Pierre, and Pedro and I, we all didn't know what to make of it. "Captain, what the hell's going on?" shouted Pierre. "What is this? It was just crystal clear blue sky and calm a minute ago. Now looks like it's coming. A nor'easter is coming. What's going on?" Pedro looked to the sky, his hawkish features on his olive oil face tightened. His eyes narrowed as he looked up to the sky. He grunted. Not sure, boys. Hang tight. We'll have a look. He went to the main cabin in the birdhouse and checked the weather. I went up to accompany him. Pedro, what the hell is going on? I gasped sharply. He shrugged his shoulders. James, to be honest with you, I don't know. The old man stared at the weather pattern, the Doppler radar. Walls and walls and walls of torrential rain and thunderstorms surrounded us for hundreds of miles. What the hell is this? I shouted. James, I don't know. I already told you. It just appeared out of nowhere. I don't know what to tell you. It's coming right for us. It's surrounding us. Jesus, we're surrounded. It's right on us. I shouted. Pedro, what do we do? What? He shook his head. I don't know, James. Just hold on. It's a freak storm. It just appeared out of nowhere. Manifested within minutes right around us while we weren't paying attention. The seas began to grow rougher and rougher, larger and larger. 4-foot swells, 5-foot swells, 6-foot swells, 10-foot swells. The wind began to pick up. 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. Within the course of minutes. Pedro, let's get the fuck out of here right now. He nodded. Began to turn the boat around. Head back east where we came from. Then as we began to chart our course, our navigation equipment began to fail. Our compasses began to spin uncontrollably and our GPS went out. It cut out completely, and so did the weather report. Ellen and Pierre went up into the boathouse, up into the main cabin where me and Captain Pedro were. What the hell is going on? Shouted Pierre. Pedro shook his head. God damn it, Pedro, what the hell is going on? Screamed Alan. Guys, I really don't know what the fuck is going on. Pierre and Alan looked at the navigation equipment. The compass is spinning out of control. The GPS and navigation device out. Our 60-foot boat was being tossed around in the ocean, almost like a toy. Captain, what should we do? Do you want us to remain here? We've secured and locked everything down below deck. In the cabin, all the equipment is safe and secured. Do you need us here? Asked Pierre. It's not so much that I need you here right now, it's so much that you stay right here for your own safety, he muttered. tried hard not to deviate from this course because it was east. The captain sputtered, stuttering, almost uncontrollably. Jesus, I've never seen anything like this, guys. I don't think anyone's ever seen anything like this, I uttered. What are we going to do? Asked Alan. Just stay here. We'll figure something out. Just stay here for everyone's safety. Just stay here, okay? A giant 20-foot swell. Jesus! I screamed. We went up and over it, and thankfully we were safe still. The rain was really starting to come down now. The wind's howling, 50 miles an hour. God. The howl of the wind. The rummaging of the sea, the falling of the rain. For a few moments we were all silent. 30-foot swell. Jesus! Just barely made it over. Then Captain Pedro reached for the radio. Dialed into the Coast Guard channel, but he'd got no signal. He couldn't. He tried the channel for all the commercial boats, and he couldn't get a signal either. It was just white noise. Hello, Mayday. Anybody out there? Hello. This is the White Lightning. Here. Is anybody there? He shouted. No answer. Just noise. And it suddenly began to get dark. It was so odd because it was just mid-morning and now it was almost nighttime. Jesus! Instinctively, the lights came on the boat. The hell is this? I looked over at Alan and Pierre. The two other fishermen were genuinely afraid of what might happen next. For hours we waged through the storm. Hours and hours, but no sign of land. Oh, what the fuck is this? Muttered Pedro. Nothing in the ship worked, except for the main engines, the lights, and the steering wheel. The windshield wipers too over the windows, but that was about it. All the navigation equipment and the communication equipment was gone. We didn't know what to do. The seas began to calm. The rain dissipated and the wind calmed. After the course of several minutes, the clouds began to dissipate and the moon began to shine through. What the hell is this? I gasped. The navigation equipment began to cut back on. The hell are we? Shouted Pierre. even though Captain Pedro had done his best to chart a course east back to Massachusetts. We were far, far out into the Atlantic, far past Bermuda, almost halfway between Massachusetts and the Canary Islands, around the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Jesus! Shouted Alan. The navigation equipment got back online. The compasses quit spinning, but still, there's no logical explanation for how we traveled such an enormous distance in such a short time. We weren't even going that fast. We were in a storm. The hell happened? Said Pierre. How there's no way we can get out this far. How? Pedro remained silent. His face solemn. Then, slowly in the moonlight, we began to make out this thing on the horizon. Contrasting against the moonlight, it was something come out of the ocean. It was this island. We looked on the GPS and there was no record of it. It should all just be open ocean. But the island stretched for miles and miles. How big do you think that thing is? I whispered. Don't know, it's a good sized island though. Yeah, it is decent sized, said Alan. How long do you think it is? Several miles? Pedro shrugged. About that, maybe. The island rose above the vast blueness of the ocean. Small hills and tropical palms and pines and ferns. Kinds of lush vegetation. Behind the hills seemed a bit of a mountaintop. Only a couple thousand feet, but nothing to shake your stick at. We looked at each other. What do you think? Said Pierre. Think we should have a look? Asked Alan. Pedro stared. I don't know, guys. Well, we're already out here, I guess. Don't know how we got out this far, but I don't know. Just then we could have sworn we heard a screaming. A loud screaming. Coming from the shore. A woman screaming. We all looked at each other. Let's go, said Pedro. We all agreed. All four of us loaded up into the 10-foot rubber lifeboat, and Pedro started the engine, and we made our way. We could somewhat hear screaming on the shore, but as soon as we got there, it seemed to dissipate completely. We came ashore. A nice, vast, gorgeous, luscious South Atlantic island. fruits, tropical vegetation. It all seemed to glisten in the moonlight. We all looked. "Hello," called out Captain Pedro. "Hello, anybody there?" We heard another scream in the distance. This time further away, to the interior of the island. Pedro and I were carrying, but Alan and Pierre weren't. "Let's go," said Pedro. All four of us agreed. We went through the vegetation for a couple hundred yards. Then we happened by this old, ancient, abandoned village. Huts. About eight of them. There was a ninth, but it was a little bit disheveled and destroyed. And there were these what looked like arrows, old arrows, and even spear-like weapons sticking out of the ground. And at the tips of them, there were these. At first, what I thought were arrowheads, but were actually shark teeth. Very big shark teeth. We looked at them. Then just beyond the huts, we noticed an incredibly large pit. Impossibly large pit. We heard one last scream coming from the pit. We all looked down, and there was this incredibly wide hole. 40, 50 feet wide, maybe, no, almost 60 feet wide. All of us looked down, and it was dark, deep, almost seemed to be bottomless. We looked down further. Heard another scream. Suddenly a gigantic hand flew from out of the pit, grabbed Pierre in its grasp. The hand seemed to almost be as wide as the damn pit. The hand was 50 feet across. "Jesus!" I screamed. Pulled out my pistol, and so did Pedro and Alan had already gone. They were running through the jungle. Running and running. Pulled my pistol in, but as soon as I aimed and began to fire, Pierre had already been finished within the grasp of the monstrosity. The giant arm and hand seemed to have a bit of a strange texture to it. Almost rough, gray, dark gray, silvery color. The earth and soil began to quake and struggle as the being began to force its way through the ground and out into the open. I took off, running with all my might. Sprinted and sprinted. till I finally met up with Alan and Pedro at the lifeboat on the shore. "Run, James, run!" shouted Pedro. He pointed his pistol out in the air in the direction of the monstrosity. A rumble. "James, don't turn around." Alan covered his mouth with his hands. Pedro pointed his pistol. Despite my captain's warning, I had to look. What lay before me was the monstrosity that simply can't be real. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet high. This is disgusting humanoid monster. A cross between a human and a shark. Devious, wicked yellow eyes. A wide mouth with teeth that were sharp triangular teeth were just feet long. Muscled torso. Bulging arms. Sharp claws. A dorsal fin on top of the head. It had the snout and mouth of a shark, but the eyes and sentience of a human. I didn't notice it at first, but the hands had a bit of a webbed feature to them. The beast stared down at us, widening its mouth and smiling. All three of us stood there dumbfounded. The beast suddenly leapt. It was right on us. We began to shove off, starting the lifeboat, but it was too late. He already picked Alpha Alan in his gigantic mouth, crushing him instantly. Blood splattered all over the place on the boat. We started the boat up and began to make our way through the water. Pedro and I screamed. We made our way to the White Lightning. We got on deck. We didn't even manage to bother getting the lifeboat. We just went on deck and went straight to the top house and just started the engine and began to make our way. To our horror, the beast actually caught up with us. Its giant finger pushed through the window of the boathouse, the captain's house, and impaled Pedro with one of its claws at the end of its finger. He screamed. Blood splattered all across the cabin. He was yanked out. I then took the helm, pushed the engines at full, and made a run for it. Appeared I still had enough fuel to make it to Bermuda, but not to make it back home. If I could indeed outrun this thing. Pressed full and I didn't look back. I could hear waves and shoveling in the water behind me. The beast was walking in pursuit. And after a couple minutes, it began to swim. I looked back one time. I could see that enormous, gigantic head, the dorsal fin on top, the gray skin, silver gray skin, the yellow eyes, the enormous mouth and the teeth, smiling deviously while pursuing me. Honed in, zeroed in exactly on me. The beast rumbled and growled. Then a giant tongue stuck out and glistened across the teeth and mouth, its mouth watering in anticipation of its next meal. I shook my head and kept going for miles and miles and miles. I kept going. I kept going and going. Every so often I would look back and there it was, the same distance away from me. If I slowed down even slightly, it would catch up with me and I'd be finished. It kept on following me and following me and following me. Day and night. It kept following me and following me. I hadn't looked back for 6 hours. It was nighttime and the moon was out once again. I looked back once again and there it was. Its yellow eyes glistening in the moonlight of night, staring right at me, following. Jesus! I shouted. I kept going. I was low on fuel. Getting low on fuel. I was within range of Bermuda. Beast went underwater. I heard it dive. I looked back and it wasn't there. I checked the fish finder, the sonar. There was nothing on. Finally, I made it to Bermuda. Stopped there and refueled. Told my story to the authorities there. I was escorted back home to Massachusetts. I await trial and told my story to the authorities, the police, the state police, the district attorney. The damage of the boat was looked at and charges were dropped against me. There were scrapes and scratches on the boat that were simply inhuman, way too big for anyone to fake or hoax. Years went by. Sometimes because I could see those yellow eyes and those giant teeth staring at me in my dreams. One day fishing in the summer, fishing for stripers at night, I saw the giant dorsal fin and the yellow eyes, and the giant teeth smiling directly at me. I blinked my eyes a few times and it was gone. Never to be seen or heard from again. Well, not by me at least.